We're here for a good time, not for a long time. Here for a good time, listen to what I say. We're here for a good time, not for a long time. So cast all your worries, cast them away. Brothers and the occasional sister, welcome to the Brocheck Club and welcome to another throwback. The 1980s, the early 1980s, I did a job, out of all the jobs I've done in my life, which looking back, and even then, I totally regret that I did that job. I don't have many regrets in my life, but this is one thing that I wished I'd never ever done. And I was uneducated and had no idea what I was doing working for this guy. His name was Les Forrester. His company was LM Forrester Limited. I don't know if Les is around still today, but if you are, Les, naughty boy. Anyway, what he was doing was he had a company which would go around in a truck. It was a Mitsubishi Canter, and on the back it had a tank. It was basically a mini tanker. And he would pick up, on the back of his truck, he would get all of the drums of used thinners from all the paint shops, the car and panel shops. He would also buy fresh solvent and sell thinners to them, and he would drive over to Littleton and pick it up over there and mix it up in his big tanker and sell that. But the other thing he did was he would also recycle old thinners, and he had the service where he'd take your old thinners away and give you a fresh tin. It didn't cost you anything, and he'd take your old thinners, which is basically thinners mixed with paint and all sorts of stuff, and these 60 litre or even 200 litre drums, and he would distill it. He had a little place down in Bromley in Christchurch, which was the industrial place, and that was my office. I would have only been 20 when I worked for Les, maybe not even that old. Anyway, yeah, I would have been 20. And so I would work for him, and I would sit in that little building with that distill running, breathing in all of those solvents. Now those solvents were MEKP, which is methyl ethyl ketone peroxide, isopropyl alcohol, xylol, and a whole raft of other ones too. And I would inhale that while sitting in the building. Today you would never ever be able to employ somebody doing that. And as a result of that, I developed ME, myalgic encephalitis, also known as Tapanui flu, basically chronic fatigue syndrome. I only worked for him for 2 years, but after working for him I started to get fatigued, and whenever I did anything I just become exhausted. For the next 12 years of my life I suffered terrible chronic fatigue, so my 20s pretty much got blown away with being bedridden a lot of the time, very, very sick a lot of the time, couldn't do the normal things that other people did. I'd walk up a flight of stairs and then I'd be buggered. I could exercise for a little bit. So I worked for Les for 2 years, and I would drive around the country picking up thinners. I'd go to the west coast and stay over there. Lots of stories can come out of those trips. I'd go to Nelson, to Blenheim, down to Timaru, to Ashburton. He bought a second truck, and he loved me working for him because I was a good salesman. But all the time I was being poisoned by sitting in that little tin shed when he was distilling that stuff, and it really had an adverse effect on my health. And no surprises, later in years in life I developed cancer and heart disease. I think there's a lot to be said about breathing in lots of solvent, not good for your body. So this happened and I got very sick, but I kept on working. I've always had a really strong work ethic, and a lot of people would have just hung up, but I just kept on going. And I quit working for him because I was offered another job by a company called Frost Wholesalers Limited. They were based in Invercargill, but they also had an office in Durham Street, a warehouse in Durham Street. And I had a really cool boss called Richard Harding. He was a lovely guy, and he had a lovely wife called Debbie. They were a lovely couple, and he really looked after me, and he believed in me. And the main boss that owned the company was called Russell Frost. And those guys, I went for an interview when I was still working for Les, and I got away from Les, and I basically carried on with my old customers, but this time they gave me a company car, which was a new Camry. I think I had the V6 from memory. Pretty sure I did. And I would suit up, wear a tie and a shirt, and I felt pretty dapper getting around town in my shirt as a young man back in the day. And the place places I would go and the people I'd met was really quite cool. And today I've still got friends all these years later. Matt, that worked at Hamco there in Christchurch, he came and visited me here 5 years ago, all these years later. And Richard's kept in contact occasionally too. And also the other reps that work for the company. And I enjoyed working for the company. And I worked there until I was 27. But I want to share a story with you. One of the things that happened when I was working for Frost Wholesalers, basically they were a warehouse that sold all the things that car dealers used, car painters, panel beaters. I'd be selling things from General Motors, AC Delco spark plugs, Hella products, Repo products, floor mats, go around all the car sales and all the stuff they'd use to polish up the cars, to the rental car companies and sell them all their floor mats. Wiper refill's a really big thing because people would drive over the coast and they'd park up on the mountains and the Kias would pick all the rubbers off the cars, so I made a good business selling those. Things like radar detectors. I had a lot of customers throughout the country and I really enjoyed doing the job, and it taught me how to talk to people. It brought me right out of my shell and it gave me a lot of confidence, and it set me up later for becoming an entertainer because I learnt how to speak to people confidently. I'd have to walk into a smoko room on a 10 o'clock in the Monday morning and there'd be 10 men around. I'd have to stand there as a 20-year-old boy, and being the sales rep, of course they'd all give me arseholes, and I'd go in there and I'd go with my book. Because I was dyslexic and I couldn't actually write, I used to have a little tape recorder, and I think I've still got it. I'll pause and see if it's in my top drawer. I think I might still have that from days gone by. Well, there we have it. Now this was my idea. You know what a cassette is, kids? There's a mini cassette. It's a tiny little, let me just focus on that. It's a tiny little mini cassette. Unbelievable. You wouldn't even see those today. That's what I bought. This was my own idea. And I used this to do my orders. And I would push the record button and do everything, then get back to my car and I'd have it on this and I'd play it back to myself and I'd rewrite them out slowly because I was such a slow writer. And I didn't even tell my boss I had it until probably a long time because I wasn't sure if I was allowed to use it because everybody else had order pads. So I just go in there and say 25 AC Delco 3 M145s, give me 6 Hella 2596, that was the tail light. I think from memory, those part numbers, and I'd say all the part numbers and things and stick it in this little thing here. So that there was part of, I've kept that for all those years. I mean, this is over 40 years old now. So it'll be 40 years old then. Yeah, it'll actually be 38 years old because I'm 60 now and I was 22 when I was working for those guys. So yeah, it's 48 years old. That was my little mechanism which I use, and I love working for these guys, and I used to enjoy travelling around and speaking to all the people all around the country. And people on the whole were really good to me. The car dealers treated me really well. The panel beaters and car painters treated me really well. And I'd stay on the west coast and I'd get up to all sorts of trouble. And I would carry my harmonica and also take the guitar, and I'd do a lot of my practice because I was dreaming of becoming a musician one day, playing professionally, which I did later on become. I used to play in the weekends in some bands, some funny old bands that did Elvis music and stuff like that, but I wasn't a solo artist. I was mostly just either a harmonica player or guitarist or a singer. Anyway, I do digress from where the story's going because it goes to quite an interesting place. One of the places I used to go to was Timaru. I used to go to Ashburton, Timaru. That's as far as I went south because we had an office also in Invercargill, and they would come up that far, so we'd meet in the middle. And I would go there twice a month, and I had various customers. And a place I used to go and drink was called, I think it was in Stafford Street, and I think from memory it was called The Commercial. And the publican's name was Jim Smith, and Jim Smith is legendary. He was just only a few years ago, I think 1920 was the last time he was pulling pints. He would have pulled pints for 50 years almost, that man. And Jim told me a story once at the bar. He had made his money working in Fiordland, where my father worked, and he'd worked there as a crayfisherman as a young man. He'd done really long hours. He'd start at like 4 a.m. in the morning and he'd work till 6 p.m. at night. And they'd be in bed by 7 o'clock because they just worked around the clock. And he learnt to really work, and he made good money as a crayfisherman. And he got married and then he got divorced again. His second wife, her name was Marie, and the reason that I remember this story so well, it was around my birthday. So on the 12th of February in 1988, it was a Friday. It had to be a Friday because I'd finished my rep job for the week and I'd sent my orders on the phone, and I told my boss, Richard, I actually sent them through on the phone, or I think it was the phone. I think I called them through. I didn't come back to work for some reason, and I was allowed to keep the car for the weekend, so I stayed there. And the reason I wanted to stay there was a woman who I really, really liked called Judith. And she was different, she was strange, she was weird. She was like really, really weird. She had a way about her that was just a bit sort of scary and a bit exciting, and I wasn't sure. And I'd met her in this pub on many occasions, and we drunk there, and I'd gone back, it was my birthday, and she was going to give me a birthday present. At this stage, we'd only just talked and drunk, and I was thinking what my birthday present was going to be something, you guys know what you'd be hoping for, but that's not the way it turned out at all. Anyway, little did I know that this would be the very final time ever that I would ever drink in the commercial. And Jim was at the bar. Don't remember his wife there. They used to have a little dog. But anyway, I was drinking with Judith at the bar, and she was getting more beautiful by the moment. And I'd parked my car. I'm pretty sure it was Stafford Street. I parked my car. I know that I'm pretty sure now the Smith City Market, the Smith City car park's there now. But there was a place I used to park my car, and Judith's place was around the corner. So we were drinking some beers and getting merry. We didn't know each other that well, and she'd only see me like when I come down each time to do my job. And she said, come back to my place, I've got something for you for your birthday. And I thought, had my condoms in my packet there, and cigarettes in for my breath, and a bit of under the arms, and a nice shirt, and hair all nice, and make sure I shave clean. I was staying at the hotel, and so having a few beers, and here I'm all shiny and young, excited, heading back to her place. When I get into her home, it's like, holy shit. On the outside, it looked like a normal old home, but in the inside, it was like a witch's coven. There was a big broom hanging up. There was literally a cauldron in the kitchen, and the kitchen top was a big macrocarpa slab, and the whole place had the burning smell of Santa Polo, is it? Santa, what's that wood you burn, that bark? Santa something. Not sure of the name. And also another smell, eucalyptus as well. I could smell that strongly. And there was candles like coming off the wall, out of the wall, actual candles with big bits of copper behind them, I guess to stop the house kitchen fire, and all this weird music, real crazy. And this kitchen was like all just designed around God knows what, but it literally had a cauldron about this big, a big cauldron with a gas thing underneath it. And gas wasn't very common back then in the 80s. The year's 1988. I looked around, I thought, whoa, and it's really dark, just candlelight. And she goes, do you like it? And I went, yeah, it's different. Wow, yeah, I do like it. And the music was sort of all chimesy and strange. So I go in there. When I get in there, I can smell the smell of eucalyptus and this wood burning that she had. And she says, come over to the main room. So we go in and we go around the corner, and the main room, which is actually a living room, has got these big couches on both sides, and it's got these velvet curtains hanging down with these ropes holding them back, and a big bay window, and there's one of those dream catchers hanging up, and there's this massive, it's not a crystal ball, it's like a crystal ball, it's too dark to be a crystal ball. If it's a crystal ball, it's a very dark one. This big glass sort of ball on a table, and there's all of these hexes on the walls, like at each corner, these hexes everywhere, and this lighting sort of like, how to describe it, God, really weird, bizarre lighting. The lights are actually inside a fluid in a cylinder, so it's sort of moving. I don't know how they do it exactly, but really cool. And I'm in this room, and the smell in that room is slightly different. It's got a really, really strong smell of a mixture of yin yang. Is it yang yang? Yeah, yang yang and maybe rose. Combination of those oils smells really, really sort of quite strong and intoxicating. And then this black cat just comes out of nowhere, like a typical witch's cat, comes out and just rubs up against her, and she picks it up and she goes, "Say hello." And I said hello, and I put my hand out to the cat, and the cat goes, "Ah," like ah. She goes, "Oh, don't worry about that. He's like that sometimes." And I look at the cat, and this cat's got these eyes like, "Fuck off." And I'm like, "Ooh, yeah." Anyway, she says, "I've got a surprise for you." And I said, "Oh, can't wait, you know. Where's the bedroom? Where are we going to go?" And she takes out a little black box, and she goes, "Before I give it to you, are you open to expanding your mind to doing different things?" And I said, yeah, I'm very open-minded. Yeah, I said, "I'm anything." I said, "I'm a trisexual. I'll try anything once." And she said, "It's not sexual." And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "Well, if you're open-minded, you'll try it." And I said, "Yeah, I'll try it." She opens up this little black box. She takes out a tab. Now, I'd never taken LSD before. She goes, "Open your tongue. Open your mouth." Sorry, not your tongue. Open your mouth. I open my mouth. You can't open your tongue. Open your mouth. Poke your tongue out. And she puts this on my little tab on my tongue. And she puts one of hers. Just letting it there sit. And then she goes, now put it underneath your tongue. Move it around your mouth. So it goes like this. Under my tongue. She says, "Now leave it under your tongue and just relax. Now come and sit with me." She sits down. She's sitting there patting a cat. Like this cat. And the cat's like... And she changes the music. She put on Prince. And it was Alphabet Street. Prince's Alphabet Street had just come out in 1988. I'm pretty sure that was the year it came out. And I'm sitting there listening to Alphabet Street and loving this music. Really cool. And I'm into this music, I'm just, what's the word, just getting absorbed into it, thinking, oh, we're probably going to go to her bedroom soon and have sex. This is going to be freaking awesome. She's gorgeous. And yeah, I'm just waiting for something else to happen. And then everything got bendy as hell. Like, everything got really bendy. And she looked at me, and I looked at her, and her face like was really like... And she goes, "It's happening." And I went, yeah. Now, LSD, or lysergic acid, is a hallucinogen, but it also alters your thinking. And it altered my thinking. I didn't have a psychotic episode or anything, but suddenly I was sitting there and I was thinking really weird thoughts like, "Geez, man, you're a prick. You came around here just thinking you were going to have sex with this beautiful woman, and you don't even really know her. You've only seen her like 3 or 4 times. And what if she like falls in love with you and you're not even compatible, and you've used her for a body and you're not even compatible, and you're not even going to commit to a relationship? And I don't want to commit to a relationship to anybody because I don't want to be with any. I just want to just have lots of women and be free. And then what am I doing?" And I started analysing everything. I started thinking about things I'd never thought about before. I started thinking about my job. I thought, what am I doing as a sales rep? Why am I doing this? I'm a creative person. I should be creating stuff. I shouldn't be just selling products. And I started analysing everything. And I went into this trip. And it was like a 4-way trip. I went 4 different ways. First of all, I was really analytic about everything. And instead of just enjoying the music, I wasn't paranoid like you do on dope. I was completely like just questioning my existence and what I was really doing, and was I really being who I really am meant to be. And I felt really bad that I'd had this assumption I was going to sleep with her. And then I went bang in another direction where everything was just like, whoa, man, the whole room was going like this, everything, and I wasn't sure what was real and what was not real. And I looked at her and she had this big smile on her face and these eyes that were all like stars, all sparkly. And her cheekbones were really wide. Suddenly her eyes got really big, and her lips were really big. And I looked down at her boobs, and she had a thing which revealed a little bit. Suddenly she had these big boobs that were sort of going like this. And I was like, oh no. And then I felt really like, oh no, I'm really sexual now and I can't control it. It's like, whoa, what am I going to do? Maybe I better go and rub one out and come back because I think I want to do something. And like, hell, I can't control myself. And I was like, this is spacey. And she turns to me and she goes, it's okay. It's okay, breathe. So I start breathing, and as I breathe, I'm breathing through my nose. and it feels like the whole room's going up my nose, and I'm breathing out, everything's coming out, and then suddenly everything goes, and it's a tiny light that's like tunnel vision, and I can see the room around, but it's all become rounded now. I'm like, whoa. And she's like, it's okay, you're all right. And I hear a voice, and she holds my hand, and when she touches my hand, it's like electric. Feeling us goes all up, like she's touched me there, and suddenly it's gone to my heart. My heart's really warm, and I can feel my heart going. And I turn and look at her, and she looks at me, and everything's slowed down. I'm like this, and she goes, okay. And I said, I am okay. And she goes, you're all right. Everything's slowed down. And then I'm like, whoa. Got this. It's like a four-way trip. I've gone from being totally analytic to everything's like gone dimensionally in another dimension. And then she looks and turns to me, and she grabs my face like this, and she's got me right in front of her, and I'm looking at her, and the last thing now I'm thinking about is sex or anything. And she looks at me, and I look into her eyes, and we both locked eyes together, and suddenly she just appears to be so fucking beautiful. She's just got these beautiful lips in her skin, and she was beautiful anyway, but it's magnifying, like it's a bit like taking the drug ecstasy, but it's not like that at all. It's hard to explain, and my brain is like that. And I looked at her face, and I said to her, you're beautiful. And she looks at me, and she said, I'm beautiful? And I said, yeah, you're beautiful. She goes, that must mean that you're beautiful. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, yeah. She said, I'm a mirror image of your thoughts. And I thought, I'm okay with that, because you look absolutely stunningly beautiful. So we're tripping off just looking at each other's face. And this thing of beauty, looking at her face, it's not a sexual thing. I'm looking at it. Well, it wasn't a sexual thing until something changes. I'm looking at her, and we're just looking at each other, and then like we had never actually kissed. We'd only ever like flirt and stuff, and then she gets closer and closer to me, and I'm not sure if it's actually really happening or if I'm imagining it, but then she puts her lips on mine, and it's warm and it's soft, and I melt into her, and then it's gone from this beautiful thing to the sexual thing, and we're kissing. And then I'm like normal for a moment. It's almost the kiss has broken the spell, and we're just kissing like two young people, and it's a passionate, deep, soft kiss. And you can know a lot about a woman if you're compatible or not by a kiss, because let's face it, if her breath is really horrible and tastes yucky, it's like, no, get away from me. But if it's sweet and there's something about it that's just, and this was a really sweet kiss, and it was warm and it was soft, and just like we all around my face and around my body, and then it went down to my down there, and suddenly I was like, oh, now I'm sexual. But it was okay, because she was sexual too. You don't need me to tell you what happened next. That's my private information, and you can use your imagination there. That was the third stage of the trip, and that was just pure magic. The height of our passion was reached, and it was on acid. It was pretty incredible, but I'm not going to go through the mechanics of that, because that's a personal thing, and we don't need to spell it all out, but you can imagine. And then the fourth part of the trip was we were lying on the couch, sitting back, and this music was playing again in the room, and I was listening to music. We've got no clothes on now. I've got no clothes on now, and she says, come and shower with me. So we get in the shower together. We have a shower afterwards, and we being all lovey to each other and washing each other, and we get out and pamper each other, and it's like, wow, this is really, really awesome. And then I'm like, oh my God, did I use a condom? Shit, oh, I don't think I used a condom. And I'm saying this, I'm actually saying it out loud, I'm not thinking, I'm actually saying it. And she goes, you used a condom, it's okay. And I was like, oh, yes I did. I was now in a paranoid state, and I had used the condom, because that's one thing I've always been careful of. Never ever wanted to be irresponsible with that. And it was like, thank God I did. But it was just that I was now coming down to earth, and I wasn't sort of floating, and I was thinking about the fearful things and the things to be careful of. And now we've done this, and what does it mean? And are we in a relationship? But she was all cruisy, and the acid was making me a little bit paranoid by now. And she says, you need to chill the fuck out. And I was like, yeah, I need to chill the fuck out. She says, come with me. I put my clothes, no, I didn't put my clothes on. She gave me a sarong. you wrap it around you and tie it up. I've got the sarong, it's really cool. I've just got no top on, and she's got a sarong. She puts it around there, and she's got her hair all back like girls do with that thing with a towel where it just goes. They flip it back, and it's like, and they still look beautiful without any hair because they're naturally beautiful. Tie it back, and your face is all like stretched back like that with the towel. And I'm looking at her thinking, you still look fucking beautiful. She goes, come over to the ball, and she goes, put your hands on the ball. Now, I don't believe in any of this shit. I never have done. And, well, I never had done, let me change that. She says, I want to see into your future. I want to look into your future. I want you to think about what you want to do and where you want to go. And I'm going to look into the ball. Now, it's not a real crystal ball, so I'm wondering how she's going to do this, because I always grew up thinking crystal balls were crystal. It's sort of a dark colour. And then she switches something on, and it makes the lights around it sort of glow a little bit. And I'm thinking, I'll just go along with this, because had never believed in this sort of stuff. And she's got her hands on there, and I said to her, look, I don't really believe in it. I was going to go along with this, but I think I'm being dishonest by going along with this with you, because I'm only faking it. Normally I wouldn't have said that, but the acid was making me real true to everything. And she said to me, that's absolutely okay. She said, this works whether you believe in it or not. And I was like, all right, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I've got the ball, she's got the ball, and she's sitting back. And the ball starts to get really like warm. And I said, have you got this thing plugged in? She said, no, it's the crystal, it's generating energy. I said, is this crystal? She goes, yes. And I said, but aren't crystal balls supposed to be crystal? She goes, shush, I'm concentrating. I'm holding this thing, and it's warm, and I can feel a warmth go through my body. And she goes, oh, okay, oh, all right, okay, oh. She says to me, you'll never ever drink where we met again. I said to her, yes, I will. I always drink at the commercial. She said, no, you won't. Never again. I said, I'm going there tomorrow night. She says, no, you won't. And you won't go there after tomorrow night either. All right, if you say so. She keeps on doing it, and she goes, and you're not going to stay in your job too much longer. I don't know how old I was then. I might have been 24, maybe 23. Can't remember. Could work it out. And I said, well, I like my job. She says, yes, but it's not going to be your whole life, and you're going to leave well before you get to 30. I said, if you say so, but I think I'll be there till easy 30, because it's a cool job. I like the people, and I love my boss is awesome, and I get a free car every year, and it's not a lot of money, but I enjoy it. And she said, no, you won't. We like that there. And she says, finally, you also will come and see me again, most likely. And I said, damn right I will after today. She sat back and she said, that's all. Now, I was planning to go to that pub the next night, because did I mention it was my birthday? Did I say that in the story? I think I did. I can't remember if I said it or not. Yeah, it was my birthday on the Friday, 12th of February. Yeah, I think I did. I can't remember. So I've got really, really good long-term memory from things that years and years ago, but my short-term memory is really crap, particularly when I'm talking, because I get into this sort of wave of what happened in real time back then. So what's going on right now, I lose it. It drops off just like that, because my computer's back then, if that makes any sense. Probably not. So on the Saturday night, normally I would have gone back to the commercial where Jim Smith was the barman and his wife Marie were, and their dog. I would have gone back there, but I didn't, because I went back to her house for another night, and I didn't. She offered me some more LSD, and I said, I don't even want to take that again. I actually did. I ended up taking it years later in Sweden with my mate Harp. That's another story. But anyway, actually I took it a number of times. It may not have been my first time. I might be mistaken there. I might have taken it when I was younger in my days in Hamilton travelling around. I did take a trip of some sort back then, but it was nothing like this trip, nothing at all. So this was my first real trip on LSD. I think I'm pretty sure I'd taken stuff earlier, but this was my real big trip. That's more the point. So anyway, the Saturday night I went back to her place, and I did say, I don't want to have any acid. Let's just do some stuff. Let's do some stuff. And she said, well, let's make some music. And I said, you make music? She goes, yeah. And I said, really? She goes, yeah. I said, what do you play? She says, I play everything. And I said, come on. She says, yeah, you name it. I said, well, do you play stringed instruments? She goes, yeah. I can play the viola, violin, the cello, the double bass. I said, you're shitting me. She goes, yep, I play the flute, the piccolo. I said, really? She goes, yep, I play the piano, I play drums, I play guitar. I said, well, I've got a guitar. Went out to the car and brought that in. I had the harmonica. She started playing the guitar and I played this. We played all sorts of songs. And then she pulled out a violin and played beautiful violin. Our whole night was just music sitting there. We didn't have the wild night we had the night before. We did go to bed that night and do what lovers do, but it was nothing out of the park. Just a nice night of two young people enjoying their company and their bodies and having really a wholesome time. I was going to stay another day. I was going to go and have lunch at the Criterion. The following day was Sunday, and it was St. Valentine's Day, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it was St. Valentine's Day. I think I did something for her for St. Valentine's Day. Normally St. Valentine's Day, you do something for a secret lover, and she wasn't a secret lover, but I'm pretty sure I did something for her. It was St. Valentine's Day. It was the 14th of February, which was a Sunday in 1988. And I decided I would drive home because it had been a long weekend. I was a bit burnt out from the acid. So I went home. When I got home, I did a bit of surfing, because I used to surf. Did a bit of surfing at Taylor's Mistake in Christchurch. I was staying out at Sumner, I think. I think that's where I was staying. And I got a phone call on the next Monday. And the message was from her to say that the pub had burnt down. The pub had burnt down. I said, you're joking me. She said, no. Didn't I tell you you'd never drink there again? I said, yeah, you did. She said, well, I was right. She said, you'll never drink there again. It's burnt to the ground. I said, what happened? She said, well, Jim and his wife Marie are really, really lucky because they were asleep. They lost everything. And it was the dishwasher that started the fire, I think, from memory. And in the night, the dog started barking. Had the dog not barked, they likely would have burnt to death or become suffocated from the smoke, because there was smoke everywhere and they got a lot of smoke in their lungs. And they got away with they were in bed with just their underwear and they had to evacuate straight away with the dog. And the dog woke them up from barking, and it was too late. And it was burnt to the ground and they lost everything, but they were covered with insurance. And Jim had other pubs after that. I think the last pub he had was the Copper something. If you know Jim, and he's a famous, he's one of the most famous publicans in the country. He was a lovely, lovely bloke. He's still around. Pretty sure he's still around. But if you know, what was the last pub he had? The Copper something. Forget. Was it the Copper Pot? No, I can't remember. Anyway, that came to fruition. That came to what she said. And the other thing she said, of course, was that I would leave my job, and I left that at 27. And when I left it, I paid her one last visit, just as friends. We're no longer together like that. But I went and saw her in Timaru, and we had a really nice lunch. She was a vegetarian, and I was a full-on meat eater. And she made me a really nice vegetarian meal. And we sat and talked about our times in the past. And I said, I'm leaving. I'm going over to Europe to play music. I'm going to Thailand first, and then I'm going to Europe, and I'm going to make my way. And she said to me, you will succeed. Now, acid, LSD, had a part to play in that, because it changed my whole thinking about life. And I've since later researched that people that only have one trip sometimes go in a completely different direction. It made me think deeper outside of just doing the normal job that I was comfortable in. And I have no regrets at all about dropping that tab with that young lady on that day. I've tried to research and find that pub online. If anybody can you give me some more information on it? Because I often wonder what became of it. I'm pretty sure now it's the Smith City car parks there, but I don't know for sure. So if you find anything, maybe Google Jim Smith, and yeah, I just can't find anything on it because I'm interested. It's been a long time and my memory's pretty good. I think I've got my facts right, but if anybody knows more, you might be able to add below and correct me. Go steady, brothers. I hope you enjoyed this throwback story, and we'll see you in the next one. And if you know a brother who's just struggling and needs something to take him away from the challenge of living sometimes and the hardships that we all come across and have and struggle, and sometimes life's not that easy, maybe sometimes a nice distraction of a story of someone else's tale might be fun to listen to. Go steady. We're here for a long time, not for a good time. No, we're here for a good time, 'cause it's not long at all. We're here for a good time, not for a long time. So take all your worries and cuss them away. We're here for a good time, not for a long time. Here for a good time, listen to what I say. We're here for a good time, not for a long time. So take all your worries and cuss them away. We're here for a good time, not for a long time. Here for a good time, listen to what I say. Here for a good time, not for a long time. So cast all your worries, cuss them away.